boy is back. Today we're doing another university video. Yes.
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 Yeah.
Wanted to make this video because when I was going through my A-levels and going through all my exams, I found that university YouTube channels, when they talked about their experiences and gave their opinions, really helped. So, I decided I'm going to give you my 10 tips for preparing for an exam, which are just realistic tips. They're just more like student friendly. Okay, we start off with number one. One of the most important things that they don't tell you at school when you're going through exams is to kind of figure out your own pattern of sleeping. They give you this whole idea that you should be going to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock and getting up early and revising. But it's completely dependent on who you are as a person. For example, me, I can't sleep before, 1 o'clock in the morning. And also it's very difficult for students now with social media, busy days, that you kind of can't go to sleep early anymore. I mean, by all means do, but personally I found that if I went to bed late, I just get up later during the day and then work through the evening. Working through the evening I found was one of the most helpful things I ever did because there's zero distractions and there's not a lot going on social media as well. Okay, number two, I say do not move locations as often as you think. A school will tell you that if you go to the library then come home and just go to different areas and your mind will be more active, but I can disagree with more. I got into the habit when I was revising that I'd go and sit in my kitchen, or I'd go and sit in my bedroom, or I'd go to someone else's house to revise. But I found that when you're revising in one particular place, you remember certain things. For example, if you stared at a clock and remembered a particular fact, that's how you remembered it. And therefore going to a different location and learning a completely different thing, it kind of gets confusing, and it's better and it's just more time efficient to stay in one location. I know for my revision I literally stayed in my bedroom on the floor. Now the third misconception that people always do is they think that they can revise for longer than they can, and realistically guys, no one is bionic. Everyone has to have some sort of rest, and the easiest way to do it is by revising for a small period of time and having a rest and doing it often. I think someone said to me, do it little and often. Personally I found it so helpful. You're focusing for that particular short time and you're getting it done, and then you can rest. I'll probably set like 25 minutes to half an hour maximum for each session. Number four, don't do what Johnny does. Now I don't know if you know Johnny, I don't know a Johnny, but I'm guessing someone knows a Johnny out there. Johnny is basically your friend. Now your friend may be on a completely different revision pattern to you. He may be doing hours and hours and hours on end because he's been doing that for years. And the most important thing is to try and not do what other people are doing. I can't stress this enough. Do your revision which works for you. There's literally no point copying someone else because it's completely dependent on how you learn. Number five, allow yourself time to just relax and unwind before you go to bed. I mean, the main issue I had before my GCSEs was that I was revising really late in the evening and I'd be going to sleep and I'd be thinking about all the things I was trying to learn. The one problem with that is that you're not getting to sleep easily because there's so many things going on in your brain. Also, sleep is so important in terms of logging in that long-term memory. All the stuff that you've learnt that day, you might forget the next day because you haven't been able to sleep well. So sleeping is really important in my opinion, just to make sure that you're getting and learning the stuff that you learned the day before. Also I think it's important. I don't think this is talked about enough, but there are some people who get really overstressed out about exams, and there's a lot of people actually who suffer from mental health issues because of it. And it's just so important to just take time out to just give yourself a rest. You know, you have to remember you're doing these exams and they're really important, but you're a human being, like I said. Okay, the next thing I'll say, I don't know why I've got a brush. The next thing I'll say, cramming helps for some people, but not for others. I personally found that cramming just didn't work because it only made me more panicked. Cramming can help for subjects which don't require long-winded answers, but if you're doing an essay subject, for example I did economics and politics last year, and I found that doing essay subjects and trying to cram, it doesn't help because you're not in the right mindset. When you go into an exam, you need to be thinking about stuff you've learnt from the last 2 months, not stuff you've learnt from the last 2 nights. Yes, it may help some people, but it doesn't help everyone. Don't fall into the trap that you can just rely on cramming to get your work done, because it doesn't work all the time. So one of the most important things I'd say is just to figure out what type of learner you are. I personally didn't figure this out until halfway through my A-levels. At first I thought I was an audio learner, then I thought I was a visual learner, then I thought I just could read a book and just remember it. And I'm not gonna lie, it was just a blend of things by the end of it. That just helped when I started revising. Don't just panic if you don't know what works for you yet, because you still have time to figure it out. The good thing about this platform is that there's so many outlets for you to find your sources. For example, when I did economics, I found YouTube really helpful. Wait, I'm about to plug a YouTube channel. It's this guy called Econ Plus Dahl. It was this guy called Econ Plus Style, and he literally did videos every single week about topics that we had studied in economics. I found it so helpful just to listen to what he was saying. It's almost like learning from school again. But obviously it doesn't work for some people, and some people find it really helpful just looking in a textbook. Like I said, figure out what works for you. Figure out what works for you and stick to it. I feel this next one doesn't really get talked about enough, but I'd say that the one main issue that I've spoken to people about is that when they go through exams, they just don't eat regularly. Now I understand when you're going through work, it's difficult to, because you're trying to find space between taking a break, eating, working, sleeping, things like that. But people just assume that without eating you can get through your work and you'll have the energy to do it. And it's really not the case. Eating and sleeping, essentially primitive characteristics you need to work. I can't tell you how helpful food is in terms of just remembering things. Even if it's for half an hour, go get some breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, tea, late night snack, as long as it keeps you focused. Also, if you do get hungry and you don't want to take big breaks, then you can also eat little snacks. Sometimes what I do is I get something a bit unhealthy and I just set myself a target, and at the end of the target I'd eat the food. I think this might be quite a new thing for some people, but when you're revising, you don't realise how distracting your phone can be, and it was only till like halfway through the year of A-levels again that I kind of didn't get distracted by my iPhone anymore. Maybe it's because there's more of a motivation just to do my work, or maybe it was just because I used apps. Now there are certain apps on the App Store which is so helpful, which literally shuts off your phone, and it basically stops you from doing anything. It stops you from checking social media, and honestly, scrolling through memes or scrolling through Facebook or going on YouTube is the most unhelpful thing you could ever do, because it's literally just wasting time. Saying that, it's not just phones, it can be literally the smallest thing. Now, this brush, for example, I could get really distracted just fiddling. Well, that sounds weird. I could get really distracted by this brush, just for it being a brush. And the thing is when you don't want to do something, you just immediately try and find the next best alternative. And sometimes it's best to literally just clear your space and just focus on one thing. Sometimes what I did is I'd literally switch off all my lights, close my blind, and just put one light on, so it's only just focusing on that one thing. And finally, number 10, which personally is my favourite thing out of all of these, and it's just not listening to anybody before an exam.
Hi Abacus, are you ready for the exam?
Yeah, I'm so ready, man. Like, are you excited for the new topic about Karl Marx?
Wait, what new topic?
Oh, you know, the new topic. You know, the one where blah, 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 blah.
Just don't listen to them. Honestly, it's the worst thing in the world. The only thing it does is just psychs you out before an exam. What I found was so helpful for me is literally just going off into one space, putting some headphones on, and just calming down. Because when you're calm before an exam, it just allows you to think and formulate and plan a lot more easily than trying to rush through it because you're worried about time, worried about someone said, which may not be true. That's all for your boys' video for today. If you just want to subscribe below, we're almost on 130, which is cool. Leave a like also in the comments below. Just give me a little comment, just let me know what you think. And yeah, I've been me, you've been you, and